clean that screen, not that screen, but there we go. It's better. Let's get a nice angle. Oh, we're losing my head. There we go. That's good. Is that better? Yes. Might move you a little bit further away. Boy. There we go. Yes, good. I think that's a good. No, you're still not. You're missing my head, aren't you? Sorry, there's always a bit of faffage, isn't there? A little bit of faffage, and I also don't want that ring light to be too annoying for you. Lovely, lovely, lovely. If I can just sit here, then I will stop the ring light from being as annoying. Okay, I think that's okay. We're here. Hello. Oh, people are joining. That's nice to see. Do say hi as you're joining. Oh, I wasn't speaking to you, Coco, but here she comes. No concept at all about what's going on. She's already been trying to lie on the ironing board. She's basically positioned herself there. She's ready for the sew along. I'm going to take this off actually. I've got a so what is this? Is it an Ultimate t-shirt? I think it might be a Sew Over It Ultimate t-shirt. Hi there, hi Tess. Yeah, it is an Ultimate t-shirt because it's in a viscose. It sort of feels a bit different from if you make it in a cotton jersey. So we are going to do the last part of the dress. Now, I was hoping rather kind of unrealistically, which is always me, always want to get more done in the day than it's possible. But I was hoping that we would be able to finish the peony dress together, but I don't think that's going to happen. Never mind. But we're not doing bad. I thought we'd do the sleeve. I was going to do the hem frill with you as well. All right, chill out. Maybe, but I think that the sleeve is better, and I can't do both. We're not going to be able to get both done. But also, it's just repeating a lot of the same skills in the sleeve. Sorry, not the sleeve, in the hem one. I've just noticed that there is a candle on my island, and it is burning relatively near to paper. Fingers crossed it's going to be okay. Right. So without the things that I did without you guys, because we got up to the point where we did the facing, and we pinned it on, didn't we? And I stitched it on. And do you remember? Oh, hi Paulette. And do you remember that I boo-booed on the seam allowance? Apparently, some people messaged me saying that they were watching the sew along later than the live, and they were like screaming at the screen, it's 1.5 centimeters, it's not a centimeter neckline. Anyway, I kind of adjusted it. I've done that a little bit, but I did something that I thought, a little nifty thing that I do at facings, that I thought maybe I should share with you. So I haven't done both of them. So normally what we would do in dressmaking is we would hand stitch the facing to the kind of catch it at the end. Usually once you put the sleeve in actually, but I've done that and it's fine. There's still room to put the sleeve in. But what I've done here is I have sink stitched it. So that facing is not going anywhere. It has been stitched down. So you basically aim to put your stitching in between the seam join there, and then it holds it down, because one of my pet hates about facings is when they come out, you know, and you're constantly trying to tuck them in. And I find that this just makes the whole facing lower down, and that way it just helps it sit so much flatter than just catching it there. So let's do that together on the other side. So I've already clipped into the seam allowance, I've trimmed it down, I have understitched, so I've done all my understitching there. Making sure you're anchoring the seam allowances to the facing to the seam allowances, and that helps everything sit in. And then I have pressed it as well, so you can see that it's a nice clean finish there. but you'll see the difference. So obviously looking at it compared to, so that side is sitting in neatly and this side's like still rolling out. So what we're going to do is we are going to try and line up our seam, so the seam on the shoulder seam with the seam on the facing. So you sort of peel back and line them up, and then I use a pin and I go through the shoulder there and just close it up like that. And that pin has to make sure it's going through the seam on that side. And then, oh, I've got the wrong foot on. I was obviously finishing something else with that. And then, I'm just going to put my stitch length up a little bit. You just stitch through. So you work from the outside. So I'm working from the shoulder seam side. I'm pulling apart to make sure I really can visibly see that seam. And I am sink stitching or stitching in the ditch. It's called two different things, but it's basically when you stitch right on the seam and basically it becomes invisible. I learned this actually from a seamstress who worked in factories. This isn't really something that you would do really in kind of home dressmaking, and I think she was making samples for me once. It was somebody that we just found who was doing samples, and she did this. I think it was on the Ultimate Shift Dress, and I was like, oh my gosh, why have I never thought to do that? Because for her, like, you just wouldn't do any hand stitch finishing in the factory. Anyway, look at that. You literally cannot see the stitching. It's completely anchored down. It's lovely and neat. It's a really nice finish to it. Now, normally though, I would do that probably at the end once you put the sleeves in, because it does mean that you've got less, you know, you've got to think about your seam allowance for your sleeve. But I wanted to make sure I did that with you. So that's the dress at the moment. So let's pop that to one side. We've essentially got a dress. We've got a dress. We now just need to put some sleeves in. So let's try and do a sleeve together. I'm just going to have a sip of beer. Cheers. Happy Tuesday. I've been up since 5:30 today, working on my field. And obviously not on the field at 5:30. I was doing some other bits and bobs from home then, and then I went and got on the field at 7:30. Hi Vanessa. And yeah, so I feel like my evening is going to come to an abrupt end after this because I'm going to be so tired. So I normally would have a glass of wine or a beer kind of after something like this, but I was like, I'm going to have it now during, because when this finishes, I'll probably go to bed. I have to say, I quite like it. I don't know. I don't like staying up for the sake of staying up, and I live on my own. And obviously I've got Jazzy some of the time. When I don't have Jazzy, obviously I see friends and things, but in the winter you just sort of hunker down, don't you? And I don't like staying up for the sake of staying up just because you're like, well, why would I go to bed? It's too early. I do not do that. I have a television in my bedroom, which I don't actually watch that much, but I'd be like, I'm tired, done everything I want to do today, I'm ready for a new day, I've got no energy left. I go to bed. Nothing better than being tucked up in bed at 9 o'clock in the winter. Right. I'm wild. Right, so we're going to do some ease stitching first on these sleeves. So there are quite a few notches, and I believe that we are ease stitching in between the two single notches. So typically on sleeves, you have notches that mark the front and back, to a pair of notches on the back and a single notch at the front of the sleeve. So, but this is definitely meant to be a puff sleeve, and it comes with a piece that is there to accentuate it. So it's got like a little mini, it's like I don't know what you call it. They'll call it, I can't remember, a sleeve puff, I think. But it's like a, what's the word? Shoulder pad, but without it being as dramatic. And you stitch it in and it makes the puff a little bit more whoosh. Now, personally, on me, you love a puff sleeve. Good. personally on me, I'm quite narrow on the shoulder, and when I wear things like that, the sort of square look, it doesn't work on me. I don't really like it. I used to think that I used to love, oh my gosh, do you remember our 1940s wrap dress? Blast from the past. I don't think I've got one of those in my wardrobe anymore, but I loved that. Anyway, that's very much a 40s shape, and I used to sometimes find that the puff itself was already adding quite a bit of oomph to my my kind of shoulder and squareness to it, and it was enough for me. So I've decided not to put the sleeve puff in this, but I will still gather it up. You know, it's not meant to be eased in, it's meant to be gathered in. And the difference in that is an easing in of a sleeve head would be when you're just getting, when you're trying to make it that, you know, not put any pleats, as it were, any little kind of tucks in. You're just trying to push the fabric very gently into and create that roundness, but without having little pleats. It's harder to do, especially if you've got a difficult thick fabric. Oh gosh, what am I doing? I have not changed my stitch length. I didn't reverse, but you know, let's go back. Chatting, focus on what you're doing, Lisa. Stitch length, we're e-stitching, Lisa, so that means we put it up to the longest stitch length, there we go. We're e-stitching, so we're not reversing, and we're going to do 2 rows of stitching within the seam allowance, which we all know is very much 5/8 of an inch, 1.5 centimetres. Getting to the other sleeve notch, that's the sleeve head notch. I'm not getting, we need to go beyond that. So this first one I'm doing at 1 centimetre. And then the next one I'll be doing at just under, so like 1.4 centimetres. So you don't reverse at the end or at the beginning, and the whole point in that is because it then gathers up nicely. There we go. So we've got 2 rows in there. Okay, so I believe, and I did actually ask them to email me instructions, and then as I was going through all my stuff prepping for tonight, I saw that I do have the QR code to scan. And then I was like, oh, well, I've got them on email. I can then have my laptop by me and I can check. What have I done? It's over there. Bear with. Thought it was all super organised. I've like squished myself in. Hi there, Carmen. Hello. I've squished myself in. I'm going to just squish myself out. Sorry, Coco, don't mind me. I'm going to get my laptop. There we go. Pop it. Hey. Tracksuit bottoms, did you clock that? Bet you thought you'd never see Lisa Comfort in tracksuit bottoms. Hey. I thought I'd never see myself in a fleece, but it's the thing that I wear most at this time of year. Shocking. Although I'd like to design a fleece in a better shape, so it makes me feel a little bit more stylish than I do currently. Anyway, I digress. Right, so I think we will need to overlock the edges really of the sleeve, and we've not done that, have we? Finish the seam allowances separately. Ugh, I don't want to get my overlocker out. What can I do? I think I'm just going to do them with a zigzag, which is a bit basic for me, but I just can't face getting the overlocker out. So what we're going to do is we're just going to overlock or zigzag stitch those straight edges so that we can then press those seams open essentially. Ooh, let's increase that stitch length, otherwise we'll be here forever. Particularly don't like doing a zigzag stitch on the edge of a, oh I should have blown that candle out, on the edge of a viscose, which I'm using, because it's a bit thinner and it does sort of wrap and bunch. But anyway, that is what's happening. Where are people joining us from tonight? Let's have a look. Let's see. Do share. There's currently 21 of you watching this. Always like to know where people are. This is the last one I've got scheduled, by the way, for a while, it seems. But this is not the case. Isle of Wight, Sussex. Ah! How was the storm in the Isle of Wight? Was it okay? Storm Bert. I didn't see anything. Scotland. Oh. All the way, like from the top and the bottom of the British Isles. Ah, and Canterbury. Hello. Milan, Canada. Love it. Melbourne. Oh my gosh, Cape Town. This is amazing. Cape Town, Melbourne, Canada. Milan. Scotland, Isle of Wight. Oh, the power of the internet and YouTube, bringing us all together. It's wonderful. Yes, but I am planning on doing more. And Islington, you're the nearest to me at the moment. But yes, I was planning on yes, doing some lots more. So, but they are going to be in the daytime because I have now going into my wreath season. So I'm really busy in the evenings and weekends at the moment, or will be for the next couple of weeks. And then of course it's Christmas. So I'm going to do something in the daytime though, probably around lunchtime. And I can't even say that, Chantal. Leeuwarden, sorry. Dutch pronunciation. I think that's in Holland. I think I remember last time you saying you're from Holland, Netherlands. But I'm going to do some. So make sure you mustn't be follow me on Instagram at Lisa Comfort if you haven't, and I will be talking about them on there. But I'm going to do some shorter ones, so they won't be 3-parters. But yeah, I basically want to do some nice things in the day when I am teaching in the evenings with the wreath classes. So I thought that would be something nice to do. So probably. Don't think I'll get any done this week, but so next week I think I'm going to do one on Monday potentially, or Tuesday. So yeah, just stay tuned and I will talk about when I'm doing them and what times and stuff. Right, so I'll just trim that off. Obviously this is a good time for it all over the world because people from all different time zones are joining this. So yes, so we've got that. We'd have to do the overlocking of the seam. So we've done that, coming back to these instructions. And then we're going to attach the sleeve frill before inserting the sleeves. So we need to sew the short ends of the sleeves together. So. What is this? That is a hem frill. Oh, Lisa. That is a sleeve. That is a hem frill for the big hem. Where is the sleeve frill? I'm asking you guys as if you would know, but you don't know. It is here, under the laptop. Got it now. Right, sleeve frill. Now, so we're going to join the short ends of the sleeve frill. Short ends. There we go. Right sides together. I have cut myself here. Oh, hello in Oxford. Cut myself, I know that looks like the small cut, and it is a small cut. I did it on holly or something on the field, but it now means it really hurts picking up pins. It's on my pin finger, not very good for pinning. So I should just put something over it. Okay. So I'm going to stitch that together. Centimetre, was I meant to overlock that? No. Finish the seam. Oh, finish the seam allowances for. Oh no. Sew the short ends of the sleeve frill together. Finish the seam allowances separately and press open. Well, I would probably finish the seam allowances before if I was pressing open, but we like a challenge. Oops, we're doing a zigzag. Careful. we like a challenge, so we'll do that. That's fine. We can do it, and I want to show you that you can do that. If I am going to finish seam allowances after the seam is stitched and do them separately, I would actually press it open first. Because if I press it open first, let's get this bad boy on. If I press them open first, then I am finding it easier to keep them separate when I'm sewing them. So let's get Mr. Iron on here. There we go. Just making the ironing board shake, and Coco's not happy about that. And then we go back to zigzag stitch. So now I'm just going to zigzag those. You could also overlock it like this as well. Obviously it's a little bit fiddlier, but it's not the end of the world. Don't ever assume that because you haven't done them before, that's wrong. It's not wrong. It's just about what you find easier. Most of the time it's easier to do it before you do the seam. Right, I think now we're going to hem the sleeve frill. Turn up a 15mm to the wrong side all the way around the bottom of the unnotched edge and press to give it a crease. Open up the hem and turn the raw edge to meet just below the fold. Okay, it's a double hem. So let's do that. Bit of an awkward position here, but I'm going to do this like this. So we're going to just flip it. That's 1.5 centimetres. Now I was filming this week, if you follow me on last week, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I was filming with Sew Over at the Rosie team. I went back, they asked me to come and film an online class for their stitch school, which was lots of fun. And Rosie had that little amazing Vanina kind of seam allowance gauge that you can just have and hold it against things. So snazzy and easier than having a tape measure around your neck, which inevitably always gets burnt on the iron and melts. I've been a bit too, I don't know what's happened there, but it's got a bit wide, so just adjusting it, sorry. Do I usually wash fabric first? Yes, I do, normally, especially if it's viscose. And if I haven't, then I give it the biggest steam iron I possibly can. So if you've not got a good steam iron function, then definitely wash it. But ideally, yes, especially with viscose because it does shrink. But with cotton, I'm probably a bit lazy and I'll just steam iron it. Okay, so we've done that. Oh gosh, my nail's catching on that. We've gone all the way around like this. And then we're going to open it up and we're going to fold we're going to fold it back again for the second hem, so the second turning. So we're taking the raw edge, so opening it out where the crease is, taking the raw edge and placing that up towards the crease. So it's a way of doing a double hem. Rather fiddly for me doing it in this angle, but it's working, we're getting there. At least this fabric presses nicely. The fabric I'm using is fabric Godmother, in case you're watching this one and you've not seen the other ones. It's a viscose, so it's from theirs, and it's one of their own fabrics. I absolutely love it. It's been a delight to work with, and I just love the colour. I'm very excited about having this in my wardrobe. I've already put it together with the boots that I'm going to wear it with. I've decided on the cardigan. And then we're going over again back into the position, so fold it back just in case you've accidentally, well, not accidentally, but that crease will just need pressing one more time. So now it's in a double hem situation. We're just going to press that crease again, press it all flat again. So the width of this both turnings should be basically half of the 1.5, so 7.5 centimetres, millimetres, millimetres. Okay, right. Here we go. So we are going to now stitch this in place. So now what we're going to do is do a nice edge stitch or hem stitch. We're going to go all the way around, hemming it. And I would move your needle to the left. So I'm going to line up the right hand side of my presser foot with the bottom edge there, bottom folded edge, and then I'm going to move my needle across. I find that a lot easier than finding something less easy to line up with the bottom edge. And I always line up with the hem, the bottom edge, because the stitching needs to be parallel to the bottom edge, not to what's going on inside, because inside no one's going to see it. But outside it's going to be obvious if it's not parallel to that edge, that hem. Hope that makes sense. So most people probably would pin at this stage. You'd be like, why have you not pinned, Lisa? I find with this sort of hem, it's harder to have pins because they just make everything bumpy. So I just sort of tuck it in and do it in sections. But also if you've pressed it all, then I find it easier. But by all means, put some pins in if that helps you. And I would put your pins in parallel to the edge. So don't put them in across, but put them in lengthways. And make sure your pins are going, the point of your pin is going up towards the direction you'll be sewing, so that they're easy to take out as you get to them. Okay, I've come back round to where I've begun, so I'm just going to overlap, slight reverse, and then cut my threads off, and that's it all beautifully hemmed. Now I'm just going to give it a little press now, because it will be easier to do that now before, because once it's all gathered up it's going to be much harder to press that, so just give it a nice little press. Okay, so that's hemmed, and I believe now we're going to do some gather stitching. Yes. We're going to do 2 lines of gather stitching, one at 1 centimetre and one at 1.2. And okay, and it's, yeah, that should be fine. If you are gathering anything that is longer than that, then I'd recommend doing sort of a section there with 2 and then a section there, because if it's too big a circumference, it can be a lot to gather up with just sort of one row all the way around. If that makes sense. But this I think will be fine. So I'm going to start at the seam, put my stitch length onto the longest stitch length, and we're going to go round. Oh, look, I've forgotten that my needle's not in the middle position. I don't think it matters. I'm doing my 1.2 now. That's all that means. So we're doing a 1.2 and then we'll do a 1. No gathering, sorry, no back stitch obviously, to make sure that we can pull those threads and that will gather the stitch up. That open, come round. Okay, so now we're going to put my needle back into the middle, and we're going to do the second row. So So I'm going to do that less. They are going to be quite close together, these. So on a sleeve, you'd normally have them a bit further apart. But that's because we want a really tight frill. And it is quite a lot to gather. So having them closer together supports the tightness, as it helps it hold it in place, and also will mean that where the seam is, if you imagine if you did one at 1 centimetre and one at 1.4 centimetres, it's about 4 millimetres difference there. It's not going to be it's going to be hard to make that as neat a gather when you're stitching it in. I'm really not explaining things well today, I'm sorry. I feel like I haven't explained them well, but you will see when it's done. So, there we go. A pulley outie. And now we gather them up. So we've got to find the threads from the same side. So I'm just going to pull them now from this side. Got them there. And I'll pull them and we'll gather it up. Like so. Ow! Oh, I just caught the thread in that cut. Whilst I'm doing this, I just want to say thank you to everybody who bought me a coffee last week, who supported me in that way. That was really that is really helpful. My job now is a flower farmer, my main job, which is seasonal. And what I'm hoping is that I'm going to be able to earn a living in the winter by doing more things like this. So you buy me a coffee is helping me towards that, and also it means that I can dedicate more time, because if I can earn through this, then I don't have to earn in another way, and therefore I can do more of these. So thank you, full disclosure. So that is gathered up. Little skirt, it looks like little skirt. I'm used to making things. I was thinking that's because I'm making things for Jasmine, doll things. Oh, looks like a little skirt. Right. Then we are going to join the underarm seams, and we are going to pin those right sides together. Oh, annoyingly, I have done those the wrong way around, haven't I? That's an example of when you pin the wrong side. And then I always want to start from the underarm and sew towards the hem. But the way that I pinned it meant that I would have been having to do it the opposite direction. So I'm just whipping those out and putting them in from this side, so that all the fabric's to the left. I can start at the top at the underarm and I can finish at the hem. So lining up with 1.5 centimetres, make sure that you're off the ease stitching, gather stitching setting, a long stitch setting. And then down we go, taking our pins out as we get to them. And if you have a sleeve arm, pressing this open with that, I don't know where mine is, it's clearly not out, but if you have a sleeve arm, you can slot that in now, and then you can press this open with that in. If you don't have one, then like I'm going to do, we're just going to be careful and just use the tip. So angling the iron like that, and just using the tip, being gentle, so that we don't accidentally create creases in the sleeve that we don't want. Right, we can put the frill on, we can put the frill on now. So these are very long now. I'm going to just cut them a little bit because we don't need them to be quite so long. So right sides together. So I need to turn my sleeve the right way around, and then my frill is that way around. And I am going to line up the, pull those out. I'm going to line up the seam there. So the underarm seam of the sleeve with the, oh gosh, let's make sure that's pressed open, that's not. With the seam, the short seam on the sleeve frill. Frill? Why do I keep saying frill? Frill! Frill! Okay, and then we need to adjust this. So I've actually flukily gathered it kind of roughly in the right amount, but there's patches of baldness and there's patches of really exaggerated. So this is why they've put notches in. So let's pin the notches now. So we've got a notch there. And then there should be a notch somewhere around here. Where are you, Mr. Notch? There he is. Voila. Okay. Right, then I'm going to take a pin and I am going to sort of use the pin to move the gathers along like that, very delicately, so that we're not basically, if you use your hands, you can end up causing, you can't sort of do it as delicately and you can't do it as evenly, and sometimes you end up kind of moving things, making more of a mess of it. So as the pin, the point of a pin has such a nice little fine touch that you can just scratch it almost along. So I'll do that again here. In fact, shall I stand up and do it close to the camera for you? So here we are. There, there's a little ball bit there. So I'm just going to use the pin. Get that visually even. And then again the same here. It's a bit too much there, so I'm just going to scratch it. Move it along. And then next section. Oops, that's a bent pin, we don't want that. So I'm going to scratch that along. Okay. Oops. Is that on my... Ow, gosh. I'm in a confined space. Right, so I'm just going to do the same here because it's a bit... This part here is not very even. Get that. So I'm using quite a few pins. It's worth putting quite a few pins in because that will help you make them even. You really don't want to have bald patches of your gathering. That bit there actually is not looking good. I don't know. Oh no, I've not done it, that's why. But that looks really bad. That's the last bit that I haven't done. So it's just where all these, it's gathered up, and it's basically, just need to move them along a bit, and then I think I'm going to need to gather it a little bit more. So just pull that up. And scrape it along. Pop the pin in. What happened there? Sorry. Oh, not holding its gathers there. It's a bit annoying. There we go. Okay, it's vicious now, really vicious, but it's done. Now, will that slot onto my machine? Let's see. Put that up there, because if it slots onto this arm of this, that would be much easier to do. I think it's going to. Take that off, pop that off, there we go. So, slidey, slidey, slidey. Just about. So this is a size 10. So if you were making an 8, I think you would struggle to get this on your machine. Right, so I'm going to line that up with 1.5. I'm going to take these pins out as I get to them, so go nice and slowly. You will what will you will need to be careful not to stitch over the pins. So you are going to have to go slowly. And when you and also another thing that I'm doing is I'm trying to make sure that the little pleats that are here, they're sort of parallel, they're kind of perpendicular to the edge and they're not sort of angled, because if they're angled then you do sort of distort and twist slightly. So just try and keep them parallel by pulling here. And when you take the pin out, so I'm taking a pin out and that's at a point where it could sort of move over, and then at that point I create a little bit of tension and I'm just sort of pulling them this way so that I keep them at a right angle to that raw edge. Lifting that up, there's one that's just being annoying, so I've just left the needle in and pulled it sort of the pleat back upwards, sort of starting to pull down, which I didn't want to happen. Okay, we're coming round to where we began. You should meet where you began, overlap, reverse. And those will get overlocked or zigzag stitched together, so don't worry about it looking not neat there. We're doing it, turn it like it's, oh, look at that. Look at that lovely frill. Like I said, excited. So if you want a little tip actually that I learned the other day, if you want that frill to be more pronounced, when you press it, if you press the seam allowance down, then the seam allowance will add as another little kind of little lift inside. If you want it to be less pronounced, then you can press it up towards the sleeve and that will sit flatter. Can you see? It's really subtle, but so that's with it up towards the sleeve and then that's with it down. So it is a difference. So I'm going to probably put it up because I don't want it to be too poofy. But I'm not going to do that now because I need to overlock those together, so I'll do that later. So let's put the sleeve in together. So we've done one side of the dress. And then what that technique that I showed you with all the gathering and putting that on, finishing all the seams, everything like that, how you do the hem, that's exactly what you're doing with your hem for on your sleeve, sorry, on the dress. So you can just use the sewing skills and apply it to that. So even though we're not going to do that together, it's exactly the same. Right, so I need to make sure that I'm getting the right sleeve to go in the height. Yes. that is, yeah, in the right armhole. That's good. So sleeve always is inside out. And dress is, no, sorry, sleeve's the right way around and dress is inside out. So I'm starting at the underarm, and I always peel back to make sure the underarm and the under sleeve, so the side seam and the underarm of the sleeve are lined up. Make sure your seams are pressed open. So I always put a couple of pins either side if it's a pressed open sleeve there, to make sure we keep that in place. We then have a notch here on the front of the sleeve, and we have 2 notches here on the back of the sleeve. So pop those in, then move towards your sleeve head, and you should have another notch right at the sleeve head in the middle. So I'm just going to gather this now. I'm just going to pull this ease stitching just to get some of that gathering in before I line up the front, the top, sorry, the head, sleeve head. There it is. And that is going to line up with my shoulder seam. So that notch goes on the shoulder seam there, and we'll pin that. And then there's another notch. I love how many notches they've done here. It's great because there is a lot of puff in this sleeve. So there's another notch there, and that just shows you how much you've got. Quite a lot of fabric there to get into this small space. So I'm going to I need to gather it up a bit more. And again, we can use our lovely little scratchy pin technique to get that even if you need to, but there we go. Okay. Cut these a bit shorter again, just to get rid of some of those tails. And then actually this bit here could do with a bit of easing in, stretch a little bit. It's not so much that it needs to be ease stitched and then eased in, but can you see there's sort of some roundness there that needs to go in? So just making sure that I've got enough pins in to allow that to keep that. I should be able to be fine to stitch that without any ease stitching needed, but it wasn't an easy pin. So on this side, then we're just going to pull those again, line up that notch, so the notch on the other side of the sleeve, to make sure we're getting that puff in the right place. And then again, use your pin to evenly distribute those gathers. Slightly easier actually, and slightly less on this side of the sleeve. Okay, put those to one side. And then again, we've got a little bit of easing here. I'll just cut those off again. Oh, so many threads. I wish I could have a little thread hoover on the table that could go suck them all up for me. Hey Coco. Coco. Okay. There we go. Pintastic. Right, I'm going to put my arm back on to sew this back on. So I always start sewing a sleeve from the underarm, a bit like how I pin it from there. And then away I go. And we're coming We always want to sew on the sleeve side because that's where all the easing is, that's where all the little pleats are. There's a lot more going on there, so we have to see that, so we don't want that to be on the underside, so you can't see it. But don't forget that there is an underside and there shouldn't be any pleats happening on that side. So do try and make sure that that feels nice and smooth. Okay. I'm just at the point now where all the sleeve is going on, all the puff in the sleeve. So I'm just taking it nice and slowly because there's quite a lot of fabric there, and therefore there's also a lot of pins that we've put in to cope with all of that. So I just want to make sure that I take it slowly and I don't accidentally put any pleats in on the dress side or catch part of the dress into this. It's always the way when you've got a lot of gathers, you've got to concentrate on the fact that you've got a lot of bulk, so it's harder to feel what's going on the under fabric. Voila! It is in! It is puffy and glamorous and lovely. Ooh, look at that. Look at that lovely sleeve. I love a frill of a sleeve, a puff in a sleeve head. Lovely. Really, really nice. I'm excited. I'm very much excited to wear this soon. Let's do my classic try-on-y. Can't really, can I? But we've done 3 hours together. And we have got quite far, haven't we, really? I mean, I know I did a little bit of facing, but I didn't do much. So just shows you, those of you that are new to dressmaking, you can make a dress in hours. I will probably spend another hour and a half on that and I'll finish it. So, but make sure you follow me on Instagram. So at Lisa Comfort on Instagram, because that's where I'll be showing all the finished garments and how I'm putting them together. Like I said, I'm going to do other sew-alongs, so I really want to make a cord set, matching set, so I'm going to be doing that. I want to make a shirt out of the vintage shirt dress pattern. I'm going to do lots and lots of different things that with different patterns and tweaking them, and yeah, basically making myself a winter wardrobe. So stay tuned ahead on that. And I'm also looking into potentially doing Patreon. Is it called Patreon? As well, so there might be a bit of that. So yeah, I haven't decided. I'm looking into all of it, but definitely more sew-alongs on here. So please do support me by buying me a coffee. That really helps. As I said earlier, there'll be a link going up soon. I can't put a link in, I don't think, until when this uploads. But it's basically buymeacoffee.com and then it's /Lisa Comfort, so you can find it. And that's much appreciated. And do give it a thumbs up because that helps other people find it. And make sure you're subscribing. And that's it. Let me get Coco before I go. Come here, darling. Come and say hi. Bye from me and Coco, and I'll see you next week for more sewing. Bye. Thanks for joining. Oh, she's not happy. Yeah, off she goes.